There's a version of you that has never been lost, never been stuck, never spent a single night staring at the ceiling wondering why nothing is changing. That version exists right now, not as a future possibility, not as a reward waiting at the end of your spiritual work, but as a living, breathing frequency that is actively, deliberately, lovingly guiding your life in this exact moment. And here's what might shake something loose in you. It's not waiting for you to catch up. It already knows you will. What if everything you've been calling obstacles are actually coordinates? What if the moments you've been most convinced you were off track were the moments your higher self was most precisely on it? Bashar calls this the navigation system you forgot you turned on, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. If something in those words just moved in you, even slightly, even skeptically, you found this for a reason. That's not a coincidence. That's frequency. Hit subscribe. We go deep here consistently without shortcuts. This channel exists for the people who are done with surface-level spirituality and ready to actually feel what they've only been thinking about. Your higher self isn't above you. It's already living the life you want. Now let's talk about what that actually means, not as a metaphor, not as a comforting idea, as a functional reality that changes how you move through your day. Here's what most teachings in this space get right, and then quietly stop short of. They tell you that your higher self exists, that it's wise, that it loves you unconditionally, that it sees the bigger picture. All of that is true, but then the teaching tends to stop there, as if the higher self is some benevolent presence sitting in a cloud, watching over you, sending you gentle nudges when you meditate deeply enough. A passive observer, a spiritual safety net, something you reach up toward in moments of crisis. That's not what Bashar is describing. Not even close. According to this framework, your higher self is not separate from the action of your life. It is the intelligence running through the action of your life. It's not watching your story from the outside, it's the author. And more than that, it has already written the chapters you haven't lived yet. And it is right now using every single circumstance around you, every delay, every unexpected turn, every conversation, every door that didn't open, as a deliberate message pointing you toward the frequency you need to be at to access what you've been asking for. Think about a GPS navigation system. When you miss a turn, the GPS doesn't freeze. It doesn't shut down. It doesn't decide you're a lost cause. It simply recalculates. Immediately, without judgment, without drama. The destination hasn't changed, the route just adapted. Your higher self operates exactly this way, except it's not recalculating because you made a mistake. It's recalculating because the route it's showing you in real time is always the most direct path to your expansion, and expansion rarely looks like a straight line. Or think about a tuning fork. When you strike a tuning fork, it doesn't try to convince nearby objects to vibrate with it. It simply vibrates at its own frequency, and anything that shares that frequency responds automatically. Your higher self is the tuning fork that has already been struck. It is already resonating at the frequency of the life you most deeply desire. Your job, and this is what nobody tells you clearly enough, isn't to build that life from scratch. It's to match the frequency that's already humming. Your higher self isn't above you. It's already living the life you want. This is where the reframe lives. This is where something either clicks or it doesn't yet. And if it doesn't yet, stay with me. Because point 2 is where it usually lands. You've been doing the work, you've been visualizing, affirming, meditating, shadow working, journaling, raising your vibration, watching content like this. That's not the problem. That was never the problem. The problem, if we're even going to call it that, is a subtle misunderstanding of what the work is actually for. Most people in the manifestation space approach their spiritual practices as if they are building a bridge to a destination that doesn't exist yet. Every visualization is a brick. Every positive thought is a plank. And when the bridge doesn't seem to be getting longer fast enough, the fear sets in. Maybe I'm not doing it right. Maybe I don't believe enough. Maybe I'm too broken for this to work for me. But Bashar's framework suggests something structurally different. The destination already exists. The life you want isn't a construction project. It's a frequency that is already real in what he calls a parallel reality. A timeline that is already fully formed, already inhabited by a version of you who made it there. Your higher self isn't hoping you'll build toward it. It's actively transmitting the coordinates. This means your practices, the meditation, the visualization, the alignment work, aren't building the bridge. They're tuning the radio. Think about what it actually means to tune a radio. When you're turning the dial and you're between stations, you don't hear silence, you hear static. You hear fragments of things, bits and pieces of frequencies that aren't quite resolved. That static is uncomfortable. It doesn't mean the station doesn't exist. It means you haven't fully landed on it yet. A lot of what the spiritual community calls feeling stuck is actually the static of being in between. Between the frequency you've been at and the frequency you're moving toward. The higher self knows this. It built the static into the root. Here's the moment this became real for me. Not as a teaching I understood, but as something I could actually feel. I was in a period where everything seemed to be contracting. Opportunities I expected were vanishing. Relationships were shifting in uncomfortable ways. And by every external measure, I looked like someone whose spiritual work wasn't working. And then I sat with one question, not what am I doing wrong, but what if my higher self designed exactly this? The entire quality of the experience changed, not the circumstances, the frequency from which I was meeting them. It's not about forcing positivity onto difficult moments. It's about recognizing that your higher self has a perspective on your life that you don't have access to from inside the story. And from that perspective, the difficult moment is often the most precisely placed moment of all. Your higher self isn't above you. It's already living the life you want. And it's been trying to tell you something, specifically, personally, through the very texture of your daily experience. This is where the teaching becomes practical, because spiritual frameworks that never touch the ground aren't frameworks, they're escapes. So let's talk about what it actually looks like to live as if your higher self is actively guiding you. Not what it looks like to believe it intellectually, but what it looks like to act from it. Bashar offers a key idea here. Your higher self communicates through excitement. Not the manic, overthought excitement of, I've decided this is what I should want. The quiet, clear physical sensation of genuine pull. The thing that, when you imagine doing it, your body opens slightly rather than contracts. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's as simple as this conversation feels more alive than that one. This direction feels lighter. This choice, even if I can't explain why, feels more like me. The practical instruction is this. For 1 week, treat every genuine moment of excitement, no matter how small, no matter how unrelated it seems to your goals, as a direct communication from your higher self, not a suggestion, a coordinate. When you feel that pull towards something, follow it to the degree you can in that moment. Don't require it to make logical sense first. The higher self isn't sending you logic. It's sending you resonance. Because here's what most people miss about the guidance system. It doesn't send you the whole map at once. It sends you the next step, only the next step. And the next step almost never looks like the destination. It looks like a conversation you weren't planning to have. A book you felt oddly drawn to. A change in your daily routine that felt pointless but somehow necessary. Your higher self isn't inefficient, it's strategic. It knows that if it showed you the full route, your human mind would immediately start calculating everything that could go wrong, and you'd freeze. So it sends you one coordinate at a time, disguised as a feeling. And every time you follow the feeling, every single time, you tighten the resonance between who you currently are and who your higher self already knows you to be. It's not about effort, it's about frequency. The other piece that Bashar emphasizes, and that I think is the one most people in this space haven't fully integrated, is that your higher self doesn't just guide your wins, it guides your losses, it guides your delays, it guides the relationship that ended, the job that fell through, the plan that collapsed, not as punishment, not as a lesson you need to suffer through, but as precision. Because from the frequency of your higher self, there is no such thing as a wrong turn, only information about where you currently are relative to where you're going. And that information is always useful, always. This means the months you spent feeling like you were going backward, they were part of the route. The version of you that struggled through them has more resonance now than the version that didn't. Your higher self designed for depth, not just arrival. Your higher self isn't above you. It's already living the life you want. So let's come back to where we started. That version of you that has never been lost, never been stuck, never spent a night wondering if this is all there is. That's not a fantasy. That's your higher self, existing right now in a frequency you're moving toward. And here's what this video has been building toward. You haven't been failing to reach it. You've been being guided to it. Every confusing chapter, every unexpected redirect, every moment you felt most alone in the work, your higher self was there, transmitting, recalculating, pointing. The question was never whether you were being guided. The question was whether you were willing to trust something you couldn't fully see yet. That's not naivety. That's not spiritual bypassing. That's the most sophisticated thing a consciousness can do. Choose to stay in resonance with its own higher signal when the static gets loud. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not the exception to how this works. You are a frequency that is already in motion, already being guided, already closer than your fear has been telling you. Your higher self isn't waiting for you to get it together. It already sees you together. Trust the frequency you can't quite hear yet. It's already yours.